Right, so you can see now I've leaded the pattern all together. I've just got to sort out just the top pieces here. So on that, you can see here I've flared that little bit out there to fit the lead underneath, just so I get a neater joint really. The other side I've done a better joint, so I'm happy with that. Sometimes you can do that on panels that where you join at the edges, is that you make a little lip, so you actually make the lead longer so it will fit underneath. I haven't done it on this panel, I don't feel it's needed, but sometimes I do that, and especially if I've got strengthening bars involved with that. So I'm just going to check my width. So I will just use the horseshoe nails to hold this in. And check my height. Keep the tools near. It's another lovely day we've got today. So what I've also done is I've go around just check to make sure all my glass is sitting tidy in channels. Great. And then the next thing is switch the soldering iron on. I've already got that solder iron on, so it's nice and warm, so I can get onto the soldering bit. What we use is well 100 watt soldering iron. It's got the tip in that is 370 degree tip, and they've got a ceramic magnet in them that when it reaches 370 degrees it stops being a magnet, which then switches the switch off in here. So it will stay at 370 degrees, which is hot enough to melt your solder but not quite hot enough to melt your lead. It will warm the lead. It will melt the lead if you hold it on there and forget about it, but it's been a godsend using that. When I first started I was on unregulated irons. I didn't go down the gas route when I first started. It was the electric iron, but it's unregulated, so it just got hot, so you had to be super quick when you went, otherwise you'd melt through your piece. These are a lot more forgiving. They give you a nice solder joint, well worth the purchase, and Cariad Glass do those as well. That's where I got mine from. So the next thing we do on all the joints, I usually tallow all the joints in one go and then I'll start soldering, but for today I will just tallow a bit and solder a bit so you can see what we're doing. So I use tallow, and that's tallow wax, which is what they've always used, and it acts as a flux on your joint. So it's a rendered down animal fat, nice, but it's traditional. And what I've found is I've tried liquid fluxes which are similar to what you can use for copper foiling and plumber's flux, but they're all designed to flow, to go with the solder. So a plumber's flux wants it to capillary into the joints, and with the copper foil flux it needs to be liquidy so it follows your copper foil, and I found it makes a real mess. You can use them, I mean it's fine, but yeah, they'll make your panel a lot more messy, whereas with the tallow it melts just round the joint and then gives you a nice clean area for the solder to flow. So I'm literally going to put a little bit on. You don't want to put loads. So you get the idea of that. I'm just putting a bit on here. So what I'll do is I'll solder a few joints. And you can see, so before I start soldering, I'm going to still wear my gloves because I'll be holding the solder. There it is there. And I use 50-50 solder, so 50% tin, 50% lead. I found that, you know, from all the years I've been using it, gives me a good quality solder joint. I know you can get the slightly higher tin percentage, so 60-40 solder, which gives you a stiffer joint. So I sort of prefer this mid one because when I did do copper foil, I could use it for both. You know, I'm a creature of habit, so it's not really changed, and I'm happy with the result I get with this. So that's that. I've also got, you might have noticed this black thing on the bench, which is a solder fume extractor. So I use that. I also have a mask as well. So it's best to do it, you know, in a well ventilated room, and luckily our secret location is well ventilated. We've got the doors open at the back here today. I could open that back door so I've got a draft to blow all the fumes towards Justine, who's filming this, but that's a bit unfair on Justine. So I'm going to wear a mask. I'll take that off just for the minute, and I'll have the fume extractor. And this works better if you can have it as close as possible to where you're soldering. So I'm going to solder here first. I'll have to have it a bit further away so you can see what's going off. So that's why I'm wearing a mask. So if I'm muffled now, because I'm wearing a mask, so you make sure that wants to fit nicely around your nose and all under your chin, and then you should be right. So I've got the sponge in there, I've dampened that. And so I'm just cleaning my tip. So what you want to do is clean your tip every so many solders, because what you'll notice is that it will start to drag the solder, and that's when your tip's dirty then. So I'm holding this here. So I'm going to go for this one here. So I've got my extractor on, probably that one there. So what I'm aiming to do is I'm melting not quite a full tip width of lead, just off it. So I'll put the lead solder over the top, touching the metal, and then I melt through. Hold it on, lift straight up. So it's quite slow, you don't rush it, and that's the beauty of these soldering irons. They're not hot enough to melt through, so you don't have to rush. So I'll solder another one here. So any bits I can see where there's, you can see here the solder's not quite bridged the gap there at the bottom. That's partly my joints on that one. But I don't worry about that. I'll come back to it if I want to tidy anything up. So hold that on and up. And so anywhere where the lead's a bit dirty, you can see this edge leading is a little bit dirty, so it's giving me a, you can see it's giving me a little like shape there. So what you can do, clean your tip, put that away, a bit of rag, and so I'll go around and I'll just clean up any of the tallow. It's best to do 2 or 3 joints and then soak up the tallow with a rag, otherwise it will start to solidify again, and it just makes it a bit more tricky to clean off. And also if you forget about it, it will gradually go whiter and whiter as it oxidises the lead around it, because it is acidic, so when it's on the lead and melted it cleans. So you can see here, if you come down a bit on these bits, they're a little bit rough around the edge. What I'll do is I'll come back to those later on, a bit more tallow, and then just reapply the heat, and they'll be cleaner then. So I've got the whole panel, I'll just take that off. I've got the whole panel to do now, so I'll keep on going with that, and then we can maybe come back when I come to turn it over. Right, so I've almost finished soldering up this side of the panel. I just thought I'd go over a little bit more detail in when you're soldering, just before we turn it over. So you can see on this lead here that it's dirty. So you can see the darker grey bits there is dirt. So if you come this way, you'll see this joint here, which I'm going to tidy up later on. But you can see it's all bobbly here. Yeah, I need to tidy that up. I'm not happy with that. So what you do, instead, don't use wire wool to clean your joints, because what that does is just rubs all that oxidation into all the lead. So it might look slightly brighter, but it's not. What you need to do is anywhere where it's dirty is use your lead knife. You can see I'm going to scrape some of the tallow away. But use your lead knife to make it clean and shiny. So you're scraping away the metal. So I'm going to do the same here. And on the corner, because that's quite dirty there. So I'm just using a knife to give me a nice clean bit of lead for the solders to join to. So I'll put my mask on, put my fan on. So hopefully you'll be able to hear me while I'm just explaining some of the other bits and bobs. So when you're soldering, you don't want to drag the solders. You don't want to put that on there and drag it across the joint, because what that will do is it will just bridge the joint. It doesn't give you a strong joint then. You want the solder to actually bond to the surface of the lead and form slightly around the joint. So that's why we go on with the solder, melt through, hold it on, and then come up. So you can see that's got a little bit of dirt marks on there, the little pop holes. So I'll put a little bit of tallow back on again, slightly a bit of lead, remelt up, and there you go, nice tidy joint. So the thing is not to rush it. If you rush, then you'll get a rubbish joint, and if it goes slightly wrong, don't again try and sort it out straight away. Let the heat go, because otherwise you'll just keep melting solder into the joint over and over again. So then I'll clean those. So if we have a look at this one on the edge which I've cleaned here, bit of tallow. Now another thing you can do is not spreading it. I'll let the heat sink in and I'll give it a little scrub, just like that, and then up. So what that does is while it's hot and the tallow's there, that actually cleans the metal a bit more. I'm not dragging it, it's actually letting the heat get into the metal, and you give it a little scrub with the soldering iron tip. So I'm actually holding, it's onto the lead there, and a little scrub, and that just lets it scrape that oxidation off really, but with your tallow and the heat. So that's a little tip there for getting those joints. So I'll do these ones. So before you wipe it as well, you don't want to wipe it immediately, because you'll wipe the solder. So you want to let it cool a bit, and then give it a wipe. So we're almost there. So I wasn't happy with that, so I put a little bit more tallow on and remelt that. So you can see that the extractor fan doing a good job there. Now let's have a look at that one. I didn't think I put any tallow on that, so I can show you what a joint looked like without any tallow. I think this is the last one here. So I'll give those all a wipe. So what I've got to do now, I'm soldering iron away. Take my mask off. So what we can do now, I'll just check and make sure I haven't missed any joint. Yes, I've missed 2 joints here. so I can't turn it over just yet. It's funny, when you're soldering, you usually find it after when you cement the panel up. Right, so making sure I haven't got any more joints I've missed. If I have, I'll sort those out later. We'll do a bit of a turn round. Take my buttons out of the way. Now I've done this onto the bench. Sometimes with a lot of the time with bigger panels, I'll do them on a board, so that can help me lift them up. So I can lift the board up or tilt it up so it's upright. But this panel's fairly small, and I can lift it up. So you get first chance to have a look, unless you've put it onto a glass easel to have a look at your glass. So there's that. So I'll now turn that over and carry on soldering the other side, and then we'll be having a look at cementing.